This is my 2001 Peugeot 406 coupe, and yes, it's missing the wheel caps, and I'm going to do something about it for a next video. But today's video is about the cruise control, which has stopped working. So I'll try and show you a fix for one of the three problems that you can have with this cruise control. So here is where the button is, and if your contact is on, it should light up if you engage the cruise control. Now this is the 2001 model, 2-liter engine, and this has this particular stick, the earlier model cruise control stick. Now my switch seems to be faulty, which is one of three possibilities that I'll explain later for failure of your cruise control. The easiest way to get it out, I find, stick a screwdriver in these three clips. This is the last one, so that opens the latch. You have to probably disengage your steering wheel column adjuster to open the latch. This is also where part of your fuses are, and you just feel behind the switch, and if you get to the bottom of the switch you can basically push it out, and this is what it looks like with the yellow connector. Good, back indoors to talk about the issues you can have with cruise control on your 406 coupe if it concerns one of these models. I think it's until 2001, but it could be 2003, I'm not really sure. But the difference with the cruise control, you can tell, is when you have on your steering column this type of stick. It's the old model. And the newer model has this, which has switches on the back, little buttons that you can push to increase or decrease the speed setting. And there's another button. I'm not going to explain how it all works, but today's video is about the old model with this stick. In my experience, there are three problems that you can have with the cruise control, and actually I had all three of these problems, so I speak from experience. The first problem, and that's the problem we're going to tackle today, is the cruise control on and off switch, which in the older models is on the dashboard on the lower left, to the left of the steering wheel. This switch can be faulty. There's a very sensitive, and actually I find it quite a strange design, but there's a switch inside that can go wrong. I'm going to replace this one today and see if that solves the problem. I'll explain more about also the inside of that switch later. I've had the experience as well of this stick failing. Obviously the electrical connections inside are also very important. There are some switches inside with some ball bearings that make a circuit, and those can go wrong. And so I had to replace this once in my steering column, which then solved the problem. And the third problem I can't show you now, but the third problem is if you have an issue with your speed sensor. There's a sensor on the differential on the front axle, and there is a known issue where the speed sensor cuts out, and you can tell quite clearly because your speed needle on your tachometer goes down, and sometimes it just comes back up. And if that's the problem, then your cruise control will also cut out. Which is logical, of course, because it is linked to the speed sensor. But if that happens, then you need to replace the speed sensor, which is something I've also done in the past. So this is now the third issue for me with cruise control. Let's see if we can fix it with this switch. Good, now we're going to do some bench testing. This is the switch. It has 5 pins, of which only 4 are used. And the 2 on the left of the far bank of 3 pins, they form a circuit if you switch the thing on. Now Let me see if I can get this on camera. That might be difficult. Okay, so I have the leads to those two pins. You can see we have an open line. And if you switch it on, that circuit is completed. But the problem with this switch is, every once in a while, it cuts out. Now the point is, of course, I don't know how good the new switch is and if it will stay on if the button is pushed. But what I do know is my old switch, there's the little light here on the switch, and every so often while driving, it just cuts out, and then sometimes the light goes off, sometimes the light stays on, but the issue is the same. My cruise control doesn't work anymore. So what I'll do is I'll take this one apart. Actually, I have taken it apart in the past and sort of fixed it then, to show you how it works. It's a bit of a faff to get it out because you have all these little pins that you have to sort of push simultaneously. And the other issue is, as soon as you open it, all kinds of little springs fly out, such as this one. So you have to open it very carefully. Let me see if I can manage to do that on camera. So I found myself some more little screwdrivers. I'm going to take the little cap off because it's just in the way. Actually, here you can see a little orange light that goes on when the cruise control is on. There's another little light in it, which is just lighting for the switch, I think. I actually can't remember. So let me see if I can manage to do this in an educational way. So I pried it up on one side here, try to keep it on a bit of an angle like that, and then I have to try and get the switch out on the other side. It's actually working. So here we go with the little switch and the springs. So, as promised, there's a couple of springs inside. I managed to keep them more or less, at least on the table. And here you can see this is mostly the problem. This is a strange little doohickey that needs to engage inside the switch. That's a bit difficult to show. Let me see, maybe I can get the inside out. How was this again? This is years ago that I did this last time. I think you can get this part out like this. Takes a little bit of time. Can't remember. Or did it go through the bottom? Just completely tearing this thing apart on camera. Apologies for the crude approach. Or did it go the other way? Can't really remember. I think this white part comes out, and it should come out for me to show you where the problem is in these switches, or at least one of the problems I have found. So here we go. I actually got it out. Here on the side is where the doohickey engages. So when the switch is pushed, this thingy hooks, because it has a tiny little hook on the end. It hooks into here, and then the switch should stay because it hooks into this little plastic canal, if you will. There's sort of a plastic hook that the doohickey needs to go behind. And what I find is that if it is bent out a little bit, then it won't click, it won't hook into this little crevice. And that is, in my experience, the problem with this type of switch. As you can see, there are two little pins here, and the pins actually have to go into the circuit board. Can't remember if it's these two or these. I think it's these two. So when you switch this, when you push the switch, these two pins need to go into the circuit board like this. And as you can understand, this is the type of connection that is very prone to electrical faults. So what happens is the connection is not completely made, or the circuit is broken for an instant. But if that happens, it does mean that your cruise control cuts out, which is very annoying at speed. Now I'm going to do a double check, see if I can get the same reading on the multimeter when I get out this switch. I actually got out the switch. Get all the other stuff out of the way. I might rebuild that or keep that in a location for later use, hoping that this one is okay. Now let's see, it worked with the cables on. I'm not going to take this one apart because it's a lot of hassle, and I might also actually damage things while taking it apart. We know that it's these two pins that we need to connect, and I think the leads are both touching. And if I switch it on, you can see on the out of focus multimeter that the circuit is completed. So let's install this in the car, drive around a bit. That's actually not, I'm not going to do that on video, sorry, but I'm going to drive around a bit and see if it works. And that might be the repair in this particular fault in the 406 Coupé cruise control. Good, so now I have the replacement switch. I'm going to reconnect it, get it back into the dashboard, and then see if that fixes the problem. If I turn on the ignition, I know I said contact before, but I think it's called ignition, push the button. That looks very promising. I'm going to go for a drive without the camera on because I'm risking a high fine if I get caught, but let's go for a drive and see if it works, and I'll report back later. The test drive was very successful. Cruise control didn't cut out once. I was very happy to notice. Now, I was lucky, of course, to find a separate switch via a breaker yard, and maybe you are lucky if you watch this video and you realize that this is the switch you need. You might find one yourself, but if you don't, you might have to rebuild it. And actually, thinking about it, I realized that perhaps there are ways to thicken these pins a little bit by putting some solder on them. And I already know that the little hook that we talked about, you can bend it a little bit so that it works a little bit better to engage when you push the switch, so that it doesn't immediately clicks back out. So maybe I'll actually make another video about rebuilding the switch or tweaking the switch to make sure that it's more stable. But for now, I got my issue fixed, so I'm very glad about that. And I guess I'll save this little puzzle for a different video, for a separate video. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you are keeping your 406 Coupé on the road, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.